by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Uziah Lewy, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for life, food, clothing, and shelter, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Also thanking the Most High God for allowing us to be here on another day, and early Shabbat Shalom to everyone out there. As this show is pre-taped, but nonetheless is being aired on the Shabbat day. So we thank all of y'all for being here, and just wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom. Giving glory to the Most High King once again for being our God and our protection and our rock, our foundation. So giving due respect to the leader of our place, even my brother, Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaschar. Also thanking the Most High God for all of the elders, Chief Kohath, Chief Elquana, all the elders within the place, and all the brothers and sisters, all of you that are listening on the internet land. Thank you all for continuously supporting and coming on every week to listen and to be abreast of what is being said and what is being brought forth. We don't take for granted that you come back to the channel and you listen. So we thank you for that. Praying that the Most High God be with you all, with your families, your households, that the Most High God will protect you all. So at this time, I'm going to proceed, and I'm going to turn it over to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Brother Hashem. First of all, I give praises to the Supreme Intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Due respect to the platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaschar, to the host, Chief Uziel, to the Prince's Chief, brothers and sisters, Maureen, Rabbinate, Kohanim, greet you all, and visitors to the station. Greet you all and talking about forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, early Shabbat Shalom. And I'll be dealing with the, at the end of this, the 19th proverb, Mishlei. And I will just highlight some things from Mishpatim, and but basically also going into Teruah, which is just the sit which is just past Teruah, which is offerings, uplifting offerings. So before I started, say Adonai Septai Jitakopi Agichi Ateka, Lord, I'm my lips and my mouth should declare that praise. And I'll address one of the questions that I've seen. That's the only one I've seen from a brother about which Tanakh he rather use other than the King James Version. And I just want to say that King James Version, for those that might not want to change right now, is well written. It's just a few mistranslations, and the verses might not be always the same. But the Masoretic text, so Holy Scriptures by Masoretic text is the one that I'm using. Most of the congregations I've around would use them. It's all English, but it has some nice information, you know, in the index and in the context of the book. So for those that's really want to keep up with the readings more so, then and I showed the book before, which I showed a cover of the book now, which is basically looks something like this here, you know, Holy Scripture book looks something to this effect like that. and it's that's all it says, the Holy Scriptures, and it contains the what they consider the Chumash, the first 5 books they call the Torah, the Nevi'im, which is the prophets, and the Ketuvim, which is the writings, the Proverbs, and Psalms, and stuff of that nature. But it's known as the Masoretic text. All right, so that's what I would recommend for most English speakers, because it's the style. Maybe because I might be a little bit biased. I like the English style that's in there, reminiscent of a King James Version English style. And also, they make the corrections for a lot of the words that King James might have translated differently. And mind you, too, that everything that's translated in one language from another language are not always exact. It'd be close. Some things could be exact, but you have them points and times in translation where the verbiage or wording is only understood in the language and best said in the language that it originated in. So that being said, I just want to go back just a little bit in Mishpatim, and I think I will go back to the Mishpatim, which means ordinances, judgments, or sentences, as they brought out, which is a lot of civil laws. And Mishpatim itself comes before this particular portion of Terumah. And one of the instances about Terumah, and one of the is that you would figure if God brought us to the Mount Sinai, and He gave that revelation in the Sidra Yithro, which a couple of weeks back, then it would seem that He would talk about a worship, and how to worship and how to serve Him more, and for the lack of a better word, religiously, how to instill more of a religious tenet within us. But when we find as we go into Mishpatim, you have like basically 53 law, statutes, and judgments within the book of the Sidra portion, Mishpatim. And now from the 25th chapter of Exodus all the way to the end, the 40th chapter Exodus, basically, we say 50 chapters, we all talking about the area of the tabernacle, which is in Hebrew is called the Mishkan. And that's what we mostly focus on. We have one little small glitch in there where it's interrupted with the our sin of the golden calf. So, but before I get into that, I just want to bring out this point now in the 22nd chapter of Mishpatim, and the 18th verse. I think I turned too far. Oh, 23rd chapter, excuse me, 23rd chapter of Exodus, and coming from the 19th verse. All right. It says, the choicest first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not see the kid in its mother's milk. Now, we have a dietary law that's given, and we know those that follow a strict kashrut halakha diet, they don't eat dairy and meat together. If they eat dairy, they could a few moments eat meat, but if they eat meat first, they must wait anywhere. It depends on the customs, 4 hours, 6 hours, and a place like Holland would be basically 1 hour before you can eat some dairy. Now, we know seething means to boil, and I wanted to focus on that And since seething means to boil, what do that have to do if in kashrut laws, we know a chicken doesn't produce milk. All right, we know fowls don't produce milk. We know that as well. We know also that if we say, all right, the kid and his mother's milk, okay, that means the actual offspring of that mother, you won't use that milk that the kid usually nurses off of to cook them in after you slay them. So you say, well, this is a strange law. And the rabbis come with, and prohibit it as a diet and institute it as a dietary law. And because it's mentioned 3 times in the Sidra itself, I mean, within the first 5 books. But I'm not going to focus on the rabbinical interpretation. You could pretty much look them up yourself. But I like to say what a lot of people may not realize is that 2 aspects. One, a kid, milk, itself, being nomadic people, water was very precious. We cried about water. We never cried about milk or juice, anything like that. It's about water, because water sustains not only ourselves, but it also sustains our cattle. And we also find later on in 40 years later, when it was talking about water in reference to the cattle. Being nomadic people, since everybody need water, everybody don't need milk. Therefore, they will cook the animal in milk. Now, and it's because the water was more precious instead of using on water. Now, when we look at it, it teaches about inhumane and cruelty. First of all, milk is a life-supporting thing, a life substance supporting. And, you just slaying something. So it's like 2 opposing things. One is to support and sustain and enhance life. And you just already taken that life and you're trying to make a meal out of it. So it teaches more of a symbolic meaning of being humane in that sense. It's not a pretty much in reference to a health reason. It's just a more humane thing, because it talks about its mother's milk. Whereas if I had a little calf and cooked it in goat's milk, it's no relationship in the animals itself. But when we're talking about these here civil laws here, we're talking about trying to be more compassionate and more humane, as Ms. Patine opened up with about a member of society in the ancient world that would tend to be looked down upon. So when we go, I just want to focus on that one little point there. And as we go into teruma, this portion here, when we come up into teruma, and I like to just share some of the opening of teruma, where it says, "Wadaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el ben Yisrael, where yikhu li teruma, me'ed kol ish asher yibenu libor tiku et terumati." All right, terumati. All right, so now when we look at that in the English translation, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, "Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering, every man that giveth it willingly with his heart, ye shall take my offering." Now, in the Hebrew, the word Wayehu li, the li is for me. All right. Now, if he's telling you to take it from them, take it from them, but it says it's for me, then several things. We don't need the word Lee. If the Creator said take it, then we know it's coming for the Creator. He wanted for whatever reason. He wanted taken from you for any reason. So the word Lee seemed like it's superficial. It's not a needed term to use that term Lee. And the Creator himself, when he created the universe and the world, he created from nothing. So now, how could he be missing anything if he created everything from nothing? So those are some of the things that's, uh, somewhat puzzling. And then one factor is that they're telling Moses to tell all the congregation of Israel to um, uh, take from every man. So now, one of the things that we have here is a first fundraising project. They have projects in men's history, but now they say most times when they had a project in men's history, everybody just brought this up for their own particular personal reason, and it's basically for them. But the Creator, now, most people do in the other religions, do for their God, make dedication for their gods that they believe in, without their God even telling them to do this. They just feel that kind of motivation to do that. Whereas when it comes to we serve the true and living God, then it was seen kind of puzzling that God said, I need a particular spot for you to make. And then it said, a place for him that, for him to dwell, within us. So in other words, he's not basically going to dwell in the place that he's going to ask for these items, but he's going to actually want to dwell within us as each and every individual. And one of the things that when we look at it, we find some interesting points in reference to that usually when you have a building fund, you always say, all right, our building project, we get to ask certain areas of who want to be part of the building fund committee. Some hands raised or no hands raised. So sometimes you appoint somebody to be a chairperson over it. But here, Moses was selected, first told by God, but the job was for all Israel. And then the fundraising project was supposed to be, supported by everyone. And everyone it's not just about I give and everyone in the room give. It's like, what can you contribute? What can you contribute? In other words, I'm trying to help stimulate and motivate my fellow human being to do that for this goal, for God. So it's not just a thing where it's just Moses himself going out, and say, I got to go from door to door to collect from 3 million people, whatever the case is, for a particular place for the Creator. And what's interesting is, like I said, I always share this here, a little antidote where when a leader of a congregation said we have our fundraiser, our building fund is we have a building fund drive. We have more than enough money for our project and the building fund drive. And then everybody's applause in his audience, in his congregation, because we had more than enough money in our building fund drive. But he says, after the applause, the problem is it's all in your bank accounts. So that means right in there that the building fund drive is really will not be successful without your participation. And too often, various congregations fold because of a lack of participation, a lack of support. In most congregations, you have the adults and the elders, but very few youth. And some churches, they motivate the children to have money to give to the collection plate for whatever it is, just charity, just to give. So you might not get the quarter when you was coming up for your pocket right away, but they tell you that's what you're going to put in the collection plate. And they make sure when you got there, some of the old people, that you had that quarter, no matter how many candy stores you pass on your way to the place, that quarter is going in their collection plate. But the Creator saying, I only want this if those people that's willing. Now, we read where that cattle of 1,000 hills belongs to the Creator. So, and then we read in the scriptures that he said, if I was hungry, I wouldn't ask you for anything. So the Creator is not destitute. And he's saying that this project that you're doing for me is truly because I want to be close to you. All right, so you just showing me a sign. And then he mentioned 13 items and stuff like that. Some of the major ones, gold, silver, and copper. Then it talks, various things, wool, linen, So you get basically 13 items that's enumerated in this here project. So when you talk about the 13 items that's enumerated within this project, it's really, you say, well, everybody had what the Creator asked for. That means that he didn't ask for something that you had to go outside of your congregation to get. Everything that the Creator asked for is inside the congregation. Make us think about our own various locations that we be members of. What is our contribution? And a lot of times when you have any kind of project, the project that the congregation want is basically already to have the assets within their congregation. And that's hence part of the joke. It's in the congregation they have these assets. So when the Creator asks for these 13 items, all those people between the 600,000 men of war and the women there, the mixed multitude, and the guys that's not able to go to war, above the age and below the age, they had those particular items. And some items seem really unique as he traveled and tracked through the wilderness, like the acacia wood, which is mostly referred to as shittim. So some items are seem very unique at that juncture in time. But they had those things in order to bring it up. But one of the things that we find in this chapter, which I'm not going to read a lot in, is that he's telling you what each item going to be used for. What the item's going to be used for. He disclosing that. How many people belong to different organizations, different communities, different congregations, and a lot of times you get the funds. They say, okay, most of us just look for an accountant. What is the treasurer's report? That's most of us look for a treasury report. Very few, in the building fund projects, say we want to get a building, we never really say what the details going to be. All right, most of us don't say what each item going to be, almost like an audit, which we're going to have that later on in this as we get ready to close off the book of Exodus. But the Creator, when he told Moses to do that, and he's telling Moses at this time, now this is and also why he in the mountain. after the revelation at Mount Sinai, while in the mountain, he's telling them these things. And yet, at this point in time, he's also explaining what each item going to be used for, and what so that is more information than a lot of us in various communities know. Well, but they earned so and so, they got this much money this particular fiscal period, or at the end of a year, and I'm not sure what they did with it. God saying, even before the project begins, that this going to be used for that, and that going to be used for this. So it's already telling you that. And one of the things is, when we get into this particular portion, we talk about measurements of a lot of items. Only item that we read about out of all this stuff that's not measured is the menorah. But we're talking about measurements. So we have an idea how much it takes to do this, how much it takes to do that. Even if the writer doesn't say how much was used, we know the dimensions. We know the length, the width, the height. So we know how much of each thing would be needed to produce that item. We know what the whole fabric going to be like. We know that. Only item does not really have a measurement in there is the menorah. Only item, which is one of the difficult things, that's within it. So what I like also, as we go into the 20, let me see, as we go a little bit further in this particular portion. Okay. As we get into the 26th chapter of Exodus, it says, "Moreover, thou shalt make a tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them." Now, we have also two things I like to bring out in reference to this, and then I'm gonna leave off of this particular portion and go straight to the Proverbs. But there's a couple of things I like to bring out. Is that one, Moses, while he in the mountain, he was told to make an ark first, and have an ark made, and he got to dimension ark, and the purpose of the ark was to receive those tablets that Moses was supposed to bring down the first time. All right, so this is at the time when Moses is still up in the mountain, and it's always controversy about which came first in the schedule, but I like it's follow. He's up in the mountain at this time, getting his instructions, getting his revelation, but he don't have pen and paper. So he's not writing anything down. The Creator's telling him that, and he got to keep it locked up in his mind. And so he's up in the mountain, and he's told, and that the tablets of the 10 matters, or the 10 words that you describe later on, is supposed to be given to the ark. Now you figure, you say the tablet should be given to us. Why in the Hebrew it says it shall be given to the ark, enclosed to the ark? I thought the tablets were for Israel, and so those are just something that you're going to explore and talk about. Why is it that from the very beginning, before Moses is given the tablets, that the tablets are going to be given and given to the ark, and not necessarily straight to us? And yet God spoke with us prior to that, Moses going up in the mountain for those 40 days. And another thing that to think about is that when it comes down to the curtains in this particular area, that it uses a term concerning the curtains. They use the term concerning the curtains. In English, say cunning works, but in Hebrew, it uses the term, ma'aseh, koshev, ta'aseh. Maase Koshev Katase, which actually means, make some thoughts, bring some thought in it. You figure, well, shouldn't you have thought if you're making the ark? Shouldn't you have some thought and real concentration? And when you're making the show, the shulchan, the table, but yet when it gets down to the curtains itself, and you get this thing, the ark got cherubims on it, but when you get talk about the curtains and making the cherubims and the curtains, you say, well, do I really got to give that some thought? Yes, you do. But do I not give the other stuff some thought? So any thoughts on that you could discuss amongst, your various, leaders and teachers, why that term is used now when it wasn't used prior until we get to the curtains. And the curtains itself is, it's really only certain curtains we're going to see. The average guy. Even the Levites won't see other types of curtains. So it's really an interesting chapter when you read about that and look at it, how we it's talk about, you got to think about that. And it's get to the thought about the cherubims and the curtains as opposed to the cherubims that's over the ark. And it gives you some kind of description of how the cherubims should look on the ark cover, but it don't give you a description of how the cherubim or the cherub or the angels, whatever angelic beings, supposed to look on the curtains. So those are some amazing things that we read, and we say, wow, you got to think about that. Should it look like the one that's on the ark, or should it look like the one that's on the curtain, or the curtain should look like the one that's on the ark, or vice versa. So those are some things to really think about in depth. Why is it only now that we talking about we got to do some thinking? So, and it's because we don't have a description of any cherub. We get a little bit of description in the prophecy. So which image should we use? What I mean? How many wings should we have when the two that's on the ark only have 2 wings? And we read some of them has 6 wings. So which one do we place on there, on the curtains? So it really explores a lot, as we look into that area there. And I'm not going to, elaborate much more on that at those areas. But one of the things that we got to consider, the order, mishpatim, as opposed to teruma, building a tabernacle, a mishkan. And we know that, and the Haftarah that goes along with it is about Solomon, getting ready to build the temple. We know automatically that, well, not automatically, but doing some, calculation and research and in the book, that the tabernacle was established and lasted for 480 years. 4 centuries, almost 5 centuries, the tabernacle existed. And yet, neither one of the temples existed as long as the tabernacle, and it was made of stone. Can you imagine that? A house of wood, planks, a jigsaw puzzle, lasting for 480 years. And yet when we get to the first temple, it lasted for 410 years. And then the second one, 420 years. So those are some of the amazing things that we have. And then what is described in the opening of the Mishkan is that we know about the table. We could see the table being made. We could see the ark being made. But yet, once the the tabernacle is erected, all them items on the inside, we'll never see. Ain't that something? We got a house that we know is furnished, but we can't go in there to see what's going on. And we all made a contribution to the house. So those are some of the great things that one of the reasons you might ponder why the Creator is explaining what He needs this for and what this item is supposed to be for, because only one going to see those particular items are priests that's inside. And when they get ready to move the tabernacle, that's covered up. So you only going to see it maybe once in the construction. But the sanctity of the thing is not there until the Mishkan itself is dedicated. Ain't that something? So it's only become really holy once it's that the dedication is done. So, and the last thing I'm saying in that order is that if you have Mishpatim, we're dealing with civil laws, and you're talking about religious laws, because it ends in the Sidra Yithro that if you build me an altar of stone, it should not be built of hewn stone, because you lift up your tool upon it, thou hast polluted it. But yet we have an altar of wood with gold over it, and yet that fire blazing 24/7 in there, and yet it's not melted down, destroyed. And the first time when it's built and utilizes at the dedication, they only have copper halfway on there, not all the way up to the top, halfway. It's only when we have the episode of Korah that the censer pans from the 250 princes was beaten out and finished that brazen altar that burns all the time in the courtyard. So we had so much miracles and stuff going on with that. It's really an area of puzzling, deep study, and a lot of metaphors that can apply to the individual body. And like I said, we started with civil laws and mishpatim. It seemed like if God, we came to sacrifice to Mount Sinai, we should start off with religious laws. But when we talk about the civil laws, it's about civilizations in society. Being we're in Black History Month, and I must, bring that out. And then Chief Uzel did a good elaboration on some of the things in this country here with the different segregation, injustice that was going on, with our people in this country here in this month. That it's civil laws that is more important with the Creator of heaven and earth than you actually worshiping Him. And the commandments that He had at Mount Sinai, though we go through all those different items of those different statements, all those statements that's made at Mount Sinai, not one tell you that you must worship Him. Not one. Every one of them talk about prohibitions or what you should do. That's a positive and negative. But when you go over those commandments in Exodus, the 20th chapter, not one, He tell you now that I don't want you to have no other gods, before me. But He never said you must, bow down to me, but you can't bow down to them. So when we look at it very carefully, and then we just now only talking about a place where God could dwell within us, and He said, I want them to bring up something willingly, that you have to willingly want to worship and serve this God. But you are commanded to be able to live a civilized life with your fellow human being. And hence you have Mishpatim coming before the Terumah. Most people put religion above humanity, but God put humanity above worship. And that's one of the great things we got to constantly understand. So with that, I'm going straight to Proverbs 19th chapter. Just get this, I got you.
Going to the book of Proverbs.
Yeah, let me just peruse up in there. Get my stuff here just a little bit.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, yeah. I'm in a different setup. Okay, all right, you can begin.
Mishlei. Proverbs chapter 19, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and a fool at the same time.
Okay. Well, that's pretty, straightforward. All right. Sometimes if you're poor and you still got, honesty, you still have a sense of respect, then it's better than one, that's a fool. And usually sometimes referred to as a rich individual, what I mean? In that sense, that, says that then he that is perverse in his lips and a fool at the same time. So it's usually might more so refer generally to a rich individual, but it could be a poor fool and like be what we call in the streets today braggadocious. You talking, but you don't have anything, but you're trying to make everybody act like, seem like you got this, and you're disrespectful with anybody else, because that might have something. So that's what it's talking about there. So, and the person that's poor is we could think of the guy Job, and I always like to use this, even though the Hebrew word is Eo, I always say, well, I always say they did a job on Job because though though he was became a controversy and was smitten with a lot of stuff by Satan, the adversary, that he said, I will still uphold my integrity. He lost everything. He lost his house. He lost his children's. He done got beat down skin wise. He had all kind of blemishes. I mean, he was worse than a person that got hit with Zarai, you know, where he had to scrape his own sores and sit down in ashes just to find comfort. Now that's amazing. But yet he still said, I will uphold my integrity, no matter what. And that's the lesson for all of us. All right, continue.
Verse 2, it reads, also that the soul be without knowledge is not good, and he that hasteth with his feet sinneth.
Okay. All right. So in other words, you got to think things out. In other words, we had the saying, haste make waste. A lot of times people just run amok without even any kind of thought about what you're about to do. All right. So when we get into that area, a soul without knowledge, that means you don't have any kind of consciousness about even what you want to do in life. A lot of times we just say, well, ask your children, what you want to be in life? And then you can expect someone to say, well, I don't know. You can say a child. But when you talk about a grown individual, that's going to school, that's pretty much, reached past their teens or close to their teens, you say, well, what you want to do in life? Well, I don't know. Then that's a sad individual, sad individual. We got to always find out what, our children is interested in life and hopefully motivate them, and set them on a path towards that, but not moving aimlessly. All right. Continue.
Verse 3, the foolishness of a man perverteth his way, and his
Okay.
heart fretteth against Yehovah.
That means sometimes a guy be so ignorant and blame his misfortune on God. That's what it means. Anytime I messed up, God, see, it's your fault, God. You should have helped me. You should have made me do so. So they blame their misfortune on God because their foolishness. And I know, God, you're supposed to help me in my illicit intrigues, all that kind of stuff. And people would curse God behind it. All right, continue.
Verse 4, it reads, wealth added many friends, but as for the poor, his friend separateth himself from him.
Okay. Well, the Romans say, where there's wealth, there are friends. and in the Apocrypha says, let me see how it goes. It says, where well, I can't remember the exact quote, but anyway, it's where when poverty exists, and poverty, um, and wealth. That's how it goes. In wealth, who could tell a friend? But in poverty, I mean, an enemy will not be hidden. An enemy will not be hidden. So, so, so when you're doing bad, you doing a little, going down a little bit financially and everything like that. There, things get a little tight. Then you could see who's gonna hang around you. You know, and then to be able to say, well, I ain't gonna let my brother or something go down that low. But if you're doing really really good, then you can't see if people gonna stand with you when things go bad. You know, and and that's really one of the things I always think about when I hear this particular Proverbs. I think about the late Biggie Smalls and how he got into a situation, and the guy said, "Look, I don't care. When they got arrested, I don't care who I put this charge on." Said, so y'all decide which one of y'all gonna take this charge. And so the other guy, they didn't have any money at that time, but he was such a friend, and he believed in the potential of his friend Biggie Smalls. And he said, "Look, I'm gonna take." He said, "Well," and he took the charge, though it really wasn't been his charge. He took the charge and said that, "Look, be successful. Don't worry about that." And out of all the people that's around Biggie Smalls, he never forgot him when he got out. Looked out for that guy because he was a true friend, in that sense, because he places, his whole life on the line. So I already got this here, that. I'm not going to let you take that. And you have guys, I grew up with some guys that was really like that in my time, but I'm a lot older than Biggie Smalls and stuff, but it was rare to see that kind of support. Other guys would say, "Look, no, I need to do certain things for you because you ain't, you got better potential than me. You don't need to take that." And that's noble. All right, continue.
Verse 5, it reads, "A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that breatheth forth lies shall not escape."
Okay, right then and there, we know we have a penalty for that, but if we're talking about legal retribution, even when sometimes they might get off certain things because they testify falsely, but they might get off certain things for a while, but it won't be long before that wind turns, back on them, and it's gonna be a lot more deeper, a lot more harder. Continue.
Verse 6, "Many will entreat the favor of the liberal man, and every man is a friend to him that giveth gifts."
Yeah, long as you is handing out, as they say, the candy man. Sammy Davis says the candy man. Long as you the candy man, everybody gonna be all right. You know what I mean? With you. But let that stop. Let the candy man stop. There's a problem. All right, continue 7.
Verse 7 reads, "All the brethren of the poor do hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He that
Okay.
pursueth words, they turn against him."
Okay. So I'm talking about poor man relationship. A poor man relationship, they will have to help a poor man. Friends fear to touch and are conveniently unavailable. Poverty parties fellowship. So we got a lot of things that goes on there. If a poor man runs after his friend to explain his circumstances, and buttonholes them, then they rebuke him for the lack of success and foresight. So that's one of the things, a reference to that verse. A lot of times when things happen to you and you say, well, I'm trying to explain myself why things happen to me bad. We go back to Job. You know what I mean? So everybody analyzed the situation wrong, you know, but yet he still had friends that sat there with him, even though they scolded him. But other people, when you kind of say, look, and they say, well, that's you? You looking bad like that? Get away from me. You know, and they try to run and flee from you when you try to explain, look, mine's, you know, it could have been, you could have been ripped off, anything like that. But your circumstances change, your status has changed, and you're trying to explain your status, and a lot of people don't even want to hear it. And yet, we have a law that you're not, you're not supposed to hide your eyes, from a brother that's in need. We have a law like that. Continue.
It reads, verse 8, he that getteth wisdom loveth his own soul. He that keepeth understanding shall find good.
Okay, that's straight up. If you love wisdom, you're going to be around for a minute. You're going to protect yourself. Knowledge is really powerful, as they would say. All right, keep going.
Verse 9, a false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that breatheth forth lies shall perish.
All right, right then and there. To let you know that, same thing we mentioned earlier, that, a false witness ain't going to go by. That's one of the commandments. Thou shalt not be a false witness. All right, continue.
Verse 10, it reads, luxury is not seemly for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes.
All right. In other words, that reminds me more of today's thing. You got a lot of politicians that are elected to certain jobs and are incompetent, as we have this saying, as dumb as the day is long, They don't qualify for the job, but somebody know them as well as they know somebody, because it's always not who you know, but who knows you. All right. So they get the job, and you say, how did this guy get the job? Don't know this, don't know that. How they get up in there like that as a politician? So and a lot of times when they have interviews with different people in the politics, they say, well, how come you don't know about this? This is in your work parameter. You're supposed to be able to know something about this here. You're supposed to be able to tell me what the progress report on this area here, what you intend on doing in this area here, because this falls within your parameter. So these are some of the things that we have, and we hear so often, more so these days and times, with the various politicians that's going on today. You say, well, some people been at the helm too long, don't want to leave. And then other people say, well, look, he shouldn't be at the helm because he's going to overturn it. So we have situations like that. Continue.
It reads, verse 11, it is the discretion of a man to be slow to anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression.
All right. In other words, saying, look, it's not that serious. Let me get by it. Go ahead. 12.
Verse 12, it reads, the king's wrath is as the roaring of a lion, but his favor is as dew upon the grass.
All right. Too estranged with him because he's a man of authority. All right. Continue.
Verse 13, a foolish son is the calamity of his father, and the contentions of a wife are a continual dropping.
Wow. One of the things, and the contention of a wife are continuous droppings. So when we think about that, we know there's a foolish son's calamity of his father, because he ain't gonna last long. Danger lurks for him. But why do it mention about a contentious wife or a continual dropping? They got this average expression, where it says, there's three things that make a household intolerable. Three things. We have our own expressions too, but I like this Arabic expression when it talks about, rain leakage, a nagging wife, and bugs. If you got that, that makes you can't live in a house like that. Constantly leaking all over the place. You constantly got a nagging wife, and you got you got pests that took over. Every time you think you done raid, pull out the raid, call the orchid man, they say, okay, we're gonna take a break, but we're coming back strong. So these are the type of things that I know, being coming up as a youth in New York City. A lot of times we had this saying that some people's house you go to, that the roaches don't respect the guests. They're supposed to come out at night when you get ready to go to bed, but they run across the table in the daytime. Let people know, man, you got a lot of infestation, and that's due to a lot of situations that we encounter coming up. But that when you got roaches, it's all over the place, and no matter how you close up a cereal pack, a box, and stuff like that, or you sit down and roaches be in your pockets, and what they're doing up in your pockets, or if you got cuffs in your pants, they're in your pants cuff, so you transporting them from one neighborhood to the next neighborhood and not knowing they're taking a ride. So those things can make a house intolerable. All right, I'll continue.
It reads, verse 14, house and riches are the inheritance of fathers, but a prudent wife is from Yehudah.
So that lets you know right then and there, you can provide your children with finances, but you can't provide them with a good mate. That's something you gotta say. I hope God work with them. Help me and help my son or help my daughter. You can't provide a marriage for them. Though a lot of people try to make arranged marriages and stuff like that there. And some, more often than not, it don't usually last, when you have these arranged marriages sometimes, but the thing is that a marriage and a relationship, if God's involved in it, you can provide, say, I'm giving you the money to sustain yourself. I'm providing you also a skill that, to also maintain yourself. But when it comes down to your mate, that's the faith in God's hand, and that means that you got to be godly enough, praying enough, that you get a godly enough mate that has that same strong appeal for God and you at the same time, and you for us. So that those are the only things that the Proverbs letting you know. You could do a lot of stuff for your kids, but you can't you can't deal with their relationship, much as you like to, even if you want them. Continue.
It reads, verse 15, slothfulness casteth into a deep sleep, and the idle soul shall suffer hunger.
It's almost like drugs, like taking downers. Keep going.
Verse 16, he that keepeth the commandment keepeth his soul, but he that despiseth his ways shall die.
Okay, right then and there. That means right then and there that sooner or later, a time and chance to create have things that you would destroy yourself sooner or later. That's what it is, because if you don't keep the commandments, eventually keep some kind of humanitarian stuff. You don't keep your soul. All right, keep going.
Verse 17, he that is gracious unto the poor lendeth unto Yehudah, and his good deed will he repay unto him.
The best investment is given to God. So charity, and you say charity saved from death. So that's one of the best investment, and the Sidra Teruma, God didn't say lend him anything. He said, take for me. But yet, and it's for your benefit. I tell him to take from me, and I only want it if you're willing. But he command you not to close your eye to the poor and needy. Ain't that something? That is a command to not close your eye to the poor and needy. But when it comes down to building the Mishkan, he said, I only want it if you want to give it to me. If you're willing, the willing heart. Your heart got to be in it. So that's why he said, if I command you to do this, then you actually loaning to me. And that's the best investment anybody could ever make. Because God never, ever fails to pay off. Right? And it's always on a timely manner. Continue.
Verse 18, chasten thy son, for there is hope, but set not thy heart on his destruction.
All right. In other words, these days and times, they don't want you putting that corporal punishment on your children these days and time. But yet, when they mess up, the very same things you will be charged with, that's what they do to them when they go to the youth house. Lights out, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you might have some corporal punishment. You got confinement for a certain type of time because you're unruly. So the thing is that in these days today's society, they focus more on the children's right than the parenting right. And therefore you have more wayward children. So this is one of the things that the Proverbs, and Solomon being the wisest man to ever live, and no man wiser, he give you the answer without you trying to figure things out. And that's one of the things that when you chastise them, there's hope for them. But if you don't chastise them, then you actually are a contributor to the destruction of a child, because they're gonna seek pleasure until they hurt themselves, and that's what happened. Continue.
Verse 19, a man of great wrath shall suffer punishment, for it thou interpose, thou wilt add thereto. For if thou interpose, thou wilt add thereto.
In other words, some people, they have a bit of anger, and you try to quell it down, try to reason with them. A lot of times, and he said, great anger. I don't want to hear that. Matter of fact, you pissing me off trying to tell me how to calm myself down. I'm in the moment. This is me. You can't tell me what to do. I don't want to hear what you got to say. So this is some of the things that it's talking about here. And these are people, and one thing I love about Proverbs, you're going to see everybody in there that you know. You're going to see everyone in there that you know. Continue, 20.
Verse 20 reads, hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end.
Okay, there you go. All right, that's all. Keep going.
Therefore, verse 21, there are many devices in a man's heart, but the counsel of Yehudah, that shall stand.
Okay, and a lot of times in the book called the Midrash, they focus on three major characters: Pharaoh, Absalom, and Haman. Everybody had a plan that they wanted to implement. Everyone. But the Creator thwarted all their plans. It was their hearts that they had. Pharaoh heart, he hardened his own heart. We know that Absalom, stole some people's hearts, and then Haman just had a heartless heart, period. But go ahead, continue. 22.
Verse 22, it reads, the lust of a man is his shame, and a poor man is better than a liar.
A poor man is better than a liar. All right, continue.
The fear of Yehudah tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil.
Okay, that's if you fear the Creator. The fear of God means stand in awe and having respect, adhere to his tenets. Continue. 24.
Verse 24, the sluggard burieth his hand in the dish, and he will not so much as bring it back to his mouth.
All right, a sluggard. Now, to modern readers, that seems strange, a little bit, burying your hand in the dish. But in ancient times, for the most part, people ate with their hands. And a lot of Ethiopian countries and African countries to this very day, and Muslims, Arabs, they like to have things in chunks where they could actually have, bread, food and stuff is like in chunks, even like a maybe something like a stew, and they have bread or whatever, and they dip it and use it with their hands. So it's saying you put your hands down, you never bring it up. That's how lazy you be, ain't that something? Continue.
Verse 25, when thou smiteth a scorner, the simple will become prudent, and when one that have understanding is reproved, he will understand knowledge.
Okay, right then and there. Sometimes you can learn from other people's misfortune, drama. Say, well, I don't want that to happen to me. That's why in our law, when it takes certain punishment, corporal or either capital punishment, it usually say, so they can hear and fear and do no more such wickedly. So justice, penalization should be done in a manner that will save society. And therefore, a lot of times people look at that like you're being archaic, you're being barbaric. The Creator know, and we know ourselves. We even certain philosophers, men seek pleasure and avoid pain. The minute you see some pain going on or something that's dangerous, you're gonna say, I don't want none of that. You're gonna avoid that. And that's one of the dramas behind it. Continue.
Verse 26. A son that dealeth shamefully and reproachfully will despoil his father and chase away his mother.
Okay. That means right then the mother just can't stand. She don't want to be around him. She can't own up to him. And that's something that she birthed. She can't own up to him because, of the shame that's there. It's easy for the father to walk away. But when your mother walk away, that carry you for an X amount of months, that is a serious situation. We had it's an expression that the old folks used to say, if God don't want you, the devil can't use you. Because, what I mean? And that expression right then and there, if you just that bad, that God don't want you and the devil can, you said, nah, I need what God wants, you know? So you'll be in bad shape. Continue.
Verse 27. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causeth to err from the words of knowledge.
Keep going.
Verse
That means right
28.
there. I mean, stop a minute. You stopping, you putting them in check. Sometimes you might have to chin check them, but you got to put them in check and say you need to hear a couple of things. A lot of times when they say, well, at least in my time, when a man say, and this is usually your parents or your father, or either an uncle or somebody, that's much, much older than you, say, we're going to have a man-to-man talk. You already know you're going to get beat up. You already know that's something. You got to get hit or smacked.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're going to say, I'm going to have a father and son talk with you, whether it's your uncle or your father, then you got a little break now. You got a little bit of break now because they say, okay, I see I could talk to you. But the minute they say, in my time, you're going to have a man-to-man talk, and you ain't the man, you're a kid, then that's drama automatically. So that's why, we got to, adhere to instruction and have a certain type of respect. Continue.
Verse 28. An ungodly witness mocketh at right, and the mouth
Okay.
of the wicked devoureth iniquity.
And the last verse.
Verse 29. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools.
Wow. A lot of people don't like to beat nobody down. A lot of people figure that corporal punishment don't help. Corporal punishment help. And ask everybody that went through slavery. And even though it was my unjust corporal punishment definitely pain changed things, in that sense. So, and when you study being as Black History Month, and you study books like The Peculiar Institution, I will make it so peculiar because it's so strange that you're going to treat another human being just that vile, where you can instill that kind of DNA indoctrination for generations, and that's one of the most strangest things there. So with that, I'm in my talk. I hope we got out something out of what I said today. Any mistakes been my own. And as I said, with the Teruma, I'm going to revisit some of the things as we get later on, because We have one episode that interrupts that, but pretty much everything is in reference to the building of the Mishkan. And then with that, say Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. All right.
Hallelujah. Torah Rabbi Nasik, thank you for your wisdom, and thank you for bringing forth the lesson. To everyone out there, just want to inform you not to forget on our congregation, D.C.B presents an event of glory to the Most High, Unity Shabbat Kum, We Must Rise. May 25th, 2024, services will begin at 11 a.m. at Shelf's Lofts, Brooklyn, 120 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231, the same place where we had it last year. For more info, contact us at 347-622-9090 or at info@baitdcb.org. So everyone out there is invited, and we pray that we see a lot of you come out and support this year. Pray that the Most High God continue to be with each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom, and everyone have a great Shabbat. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments.